everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel.
Today I'm going to be discussing a topic that I know you're going to find very useful, especially if you're either taking the assessment test for any of the top law firms. If you follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, you know for sure that I share, and some of my friends as well, share tips around how to ace law firm interviews and the tests. But what we all do is that we share those tips from a candidate's perspective. What I have done is to take it a step further, and I have basically interviewed the senior associate and some of the partners who typically are on these panels for the top law firm. So the first thing, what I did was to speak to those on the panel, and one of the interviewers on the panel, I basically posed about 45 questions. So I'm going to take the questions and then I'm going to tell you about the answers that he gave. So the first question: does a candidate who has never interned before stand a chance at a top law firm's interview? Now, quoting this interviewer, in her exact words, ipsima verba. One, she said that I will never disqualify a good candidate solely on the grounds that the candidate has not or has never interned before. And there you have it. So that's a fact. So if you are disqualifying yourself because, oh, I have not interned before, and I get this a lot. People call me and ask me, sorry, look, I'm competing against Jide. Jide has interned at Olaniwo, has interned at UBO. How can I beat? Even if you haven't interned before, but you're able to demonstrate, and according to the interview, these are things that are very important. You're able to demonstrate knowledge of the firm, knowledge of the industry. What are the things going on in the industry that would impact, their clients' businesses, and so on and so forth. So if you do your research, you're definitely going to be fine. So the second question, which I asked the interviewer, and this is also extremely very important, that is it compulsory for a candidate to ask a question at the end? At the end of every interview, they'll ask you, do you have any questions for us, right? She said, not only is it compulsory for you as a candidate to ask a question, it is almost compulsory for you to ask an intelligent question, one that leaves an impression on the interviewer. So there's so many questions. You can ask whether you're going to be rotated, if you get the chance to do corporate commercial work as well as litigation, how engaged our NYC associate, that some of your seniors have shared their experiences as to how sometimes NYC associate can do mainly or mostly administrative tasks that does the firm throw you right in the deep from the very beginning. You can ask questions around whether they've worked at this firm for 10 years or more. That what keeps the job exciting, especially for people who are very experienced like them. You can just make them think. Some of them have not even thought about those questions before. That if you've done so many transactions, and most times transactions have the same structure, doesn't the work get boring? At that stage, that what makes the work exciting? What keeps the work exciting for a partner or for the senior associate on the panel? And those are very excellent, intelligent questions that you can ask. Then the third question, which I asked the one of the interviewers, is that I asked him, how much about the firm does the interviewer expect you to know? And then he said that the first answer to that, or his knee-jerk reaction, was that they expect you to know the bare minimum, which would be one, knowing what the number of partners, the number of associates, how many branches or offices they have in Nigeria or outside Nigeria, if they have branches or offices outside Nigeria. Like, have they been nominated for an award? Are they ranked on IFLR or Chambers Global? And then one of the other interviewers I spoke to said that there was a candidate who mentioned, I think during the pandemic, one of the firms was law firm of the year on one of those legal directories, either IFL or Chambers Global. And the candidate, noted that, the firm was recently ranked law firm of the year on that, ranking, or the Chambers Global, and during the awards. And that why wouldn't she want to work for the best law firm of the year? I mean, considering the number of deals, that they were on XYZ deal, that this deal closed in December and it was announced on the firm's LinkedIn page. That is when, and you know how this question comes, in case you don't know how to show your knowledge of the firm. The question will usually come in the form of why Aluko anybody, or why UBO, or why Alani Wachai. So that is when they expect you to fan their ego, and I'm using the interviewer's exact words, right? So they expect you then to fan their ego that, for a firm of this size with 17 partners and over 89 associates and offices in 3 blah blah blah, and its banking and finance, these are ranked tier 1 or band 1 across. So by the time you demonstrate your knowledge of the firm, makes you a very excellent candidate. So the next question which I had put to them, how widely or how broadly is a candidate expected to read to demonstrate commercial awareness? The simple answer they gave is that commercial awareness basically is your knowledge of how the news or changes in regulations affect the client's business. So definitely for lawyers, the more important one is how changes in laws affects the client's business. So today, if you're interviewing today, if you didn't know, you should definitely read about, if the firm does a lot of oil and gas work, you want to learn about how the petroleum industry bill would impact the oil and gas business. Under the bill, the DPR will be bifurcated, so there would be a regulatory agency for the upstream and regulatory agency for the midstream and downstream. You want to know those things, right? You want to know, whether the NNPC will still be owned by the government under the new regime. You want to know beyond the oil and gas sector. You definitely know that in 2020, a new CAMA was enacted, which repealed the CAMA of 1990. You want to know what are the changes for a banking and finance practice. You definitely want to know what are the changes in the new CAMA that affects staking security. For instance, the new CAMA reduces transaction costs for parties, right? So registration fees under the old CAMA was for a private company. When you're registering security under section 197, which is new section 222, basically says that you register at about 1%, right, or 2%. That's not written in the law, but that's a practice under the old regime. 1% or 2%, depending on whether it's a private company or a public company. But under the new regime, right, registration fees of any charges created by a company is 0.35% of the secured amount. So you want to know those. You want to know that the new CAMA now allows for sole shareholder, allows for sole director, allows for So what are those changes introduced by CAMA? You want to know. You want to mention that there are netting provisions under new CAMA, administration, CVA, which is company voluntary arrangement. Those are the kind of things that an interviewer will be so excited to see you demonstrate. You want to mention that there's a new BOFIA. That under the new BOFIA, the definition of banking business has been expanded. Definition of OFI has been expanded to include PSSP. So the likes of Piggyverse now have new compliance obligations. When you say those things, like, you get your interviewers excited. There are other laws. Of course, there's the Finance Act, which reduces increases actually the VAT rate from 5% to 7.5%. Reduces tax to it does about 3 different categories or thresholds for small companies, mid-sized companies, and then large. You want to demonstrate those kind of knowledge. So by the time you show, that's commercial awareness really, or what's in the news. If you're interviewing tomorrow, definitely you want to know your opinion about Buhari banning Twitter. That what are the legal issues? Is it a breach of a fundamental violation of the fundamental human right to either press, expression? Those are the kind of topical issues that will come up during your interview. So they don't expect you to know for sure what is a composite security deal. Those are technical things that you will learn on the job. So take your time. And then the last tip, this wasn't a question I asked. In fact, the interviewer volunteered this tip and said that if during the interview some form of, if you like, disaster in quotes happened, that what is expected or what they're looking out for is how well you comport yourself and how well you continue with grace as if that thing didn't happen at all. And then she gave an example of a candidate. This candidate, was, during those who interviewed during the pandemic, most of the interviews were virtual, and I think even until now, most of the interviews will still be virtual. So this candidate was interviewing, video call, and then the candidate's sister came into the room and was speaking pidgin to him and was saying something like, "She make I sweep the room," and of course the guy was trying to ward off the sister that, oh my God, like you could already see the distress from the candidate's face. But he didn't let that stop, Eventually, he got the sister out of the room, and then he continued and apologized, for that. And then they just continued asking him questions, and he just did fantastically well. That was so impressive because, first of all, they didn't say this, but in my mind, on the job, things like that can happen, right? So it is a skill to see how well you would handle it if it was a client who was on the other side, and how well you continue like, oh, that's not the end of the world. Because guess what? That was something which was obviously beyond your control, right? You didn't will it, it just happened, and how you then continue afterwards is definitely going to stand you out. Again, some of you are going to, during the interview, you're not going to answer some questions very well. And for some people, it just, they just start getting like jittery, and then it just distresses them so much. You can visibly see that they are distressed, that they say, oh my God, why did I do that? What did I just say? Rubbish. I said rubbish. I didn't say rubbish. And then you just throw the gloves off. It is a boxing match. If I am interviewing, I'm going to keep throwing the jabs until the very end of the interview. So even if I feel like I didn't answer a question as satisfactorily as I would have wanted to, I would continue punching you in the face until I know that I killed it. So you don't want to, so what you then do is wait for the next question. That can be your chance to shine, and then they are going to forget what happened in between, because overall it was a good interview. The other thing that can save you is if you have a arranged or pre-prepared, or like a readily available intelligent question that you want to ask at the end. So that can be what then leaves the last impression, about how intelligent and how you've been thinking through certain issues. Then you can pose it to them. So guys, definitely you should take these tips to heart, because it is the interviewer's perspective, and I'm sure you're going to find it very helpful. So please, I beg of you guys, if you think there is any topic at all that you want me to treat, on the channel, definitely please comment and tell me what you want me to talk about, what kind of tips. If it's a topic in law or outside law, anything that is career or self-development related, please tell me in the comment below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.